Okay, what's up, guys? Round number two. So let's see if this one works a bit better. So I'm jumping on my sister, Marci Lock, beautiful sister who's the embodiment of liberation in my experience, and she should be joining me very, very, very soon. So we'll just wait for her to jump in, and as you're jumping on, say what's up, say hello. Let's have a look here. There she is. There we go. What's up, I can see you. We're talking about all things love, liberation, and there she is. What's up, Aaron Story? How are you, brother?
Oh.
There you go. There you are.
Good. Yay. Saraswati.
Yeah, we were meant to be on. What's up, Aaron? How are you, brother?
Funny. Trying to reconnect. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
I've just got a Jared smiley face.
Sort of breaking up a little bit, but...
I wonder if I move closer to... Maybe move closer to all this fun internet stuff over here. It might work better. Just a little dark.
Hopefully, yeah. Please bear with us, guys. It won't be too long.
See if that makes... What? Yeah.
I'll just tell you. Okay, now I've lost you again.
Hold at all?
That seems to be working.
I'm right by all the internet stuff, so I'm hoping that that maybe makes a difference.
Okay, there you go.
But I don't know.
You seem to be really clear with that now.
Okay, perfect. So maybe that's a little bit better. I'm by this full on all this stuff. So versus I was looking at the harbor before. So I'm like, I'm by the tech. Do we work better by the tech? So that's perfect. We'll just do that. In fact, let me just grab a little bit more light. That'll help. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Hi, my love.
What's up, Mike?
Just a little bit of
so
shifting.
Good to see you.
Sometimes we just gotta flow. Yeah, you too.
Exactly.
You too, sweetheart. Thank you.
The first thing I want to say is you have got this angelic glow going on. Like the light is hitting you perfectly, and it's making you illuminate very bright right now. So it's perfect.
Thank you. I was chanting Om Jyoti Ananda Namaha, which is I am illumination. I am the light. And to bring in illumination light, because my word for this year is illumination, because I am an illuminated light body. We're all divine light bodies. And this year I was called to illuminate in a whole nother level of expression for the stand in the liberation codes and activate the frequency of divinity. And so my chant was working. Thank you, my love.
Perfect. Well, it's definitely working. Then, so
thanks, lover.
One thing I feel is going to happen with us, because we both are very passionate about liberation and love. So I feel like we'll just open up and just start connecting. And what we could do first is let's start with liberation. How do we define what liberation is? This is something I speak about. My title of who I decided to be, liberation alchemist. So yeah. If you'd like to insightfully to share with them,
I'd love to hear yours. Share yours. I've never heard you. I mean, your liberation. I saw that. I was like, damn, liberation alchemist. That is such a powerful word, because we're all alchemists as sovereign master creators. And we truly, like, I know you and I are very connected to liberation being like, deep part of our purpose. So Yeah, I want to hear
Mhm.
what you call liberation. Share.
Of course, of course, of course, 100%. So the best thing to do for me is to start where I used to be and what I used to think what liberation was, and then to bring it back to where I am
Mm-hmm.
now and to explain that experience. Because they're two different things.
Mm.
The old experience I used to have looked like liberation, looked like the life of my dreams or of the life that people dream of. And I had the,
Yeah.
call it success and the material success. But when I tuned in, my experience of life wasn't actually liberation. It had, but it had an egoic kind of identity attached to it, which then was limiting.
Mm.
So my new
Mm-hmm.
definition of liberation is I suppose comes into the space of creating freedom in every single area of your life, creating a space that's open
Mm-hmm.
and is not the word suppressed as comes to mind, because creating liberation is the opposite of suppression, you know. So I used to
Yeah.
suppress my true nature, my spiritual side, my conscious side, very much so. And
Right.
now I'm just in my full
Yeah.
divine expression, and I've not allowed myself to hold on to any limitation from my past self, from anyone before me, any of
Mm.
my past circles or social structures, whatever it may have been. It's about creating the
Mm.
space to be sovereign, to be unique, to be that beautiful divine snowflake we all are. You know, it's really creating that space in your life.
Mm.
And to dive deeper into that as well, and to add more context to that, the biggest part of my journey was anxiety, which is the opposite experience
Yeah.
of liberation, because it feels like you're cramped up and
Stress.
stressed and
Yeah.
tight and contracted.
Contracted. Yeah.
So it's that opening and
Yeah.
awakening feeling.
Mm. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I honor that, and I love hearing more about your journey, and just I feel like we could geek out on so many things. And I'll what I'll bring presence to around what you already shared of the journey to liberation, of going from like where we have only a certain framework or context of consciousness. This is why I love
Mm-hmm.
context, is because it's almost like this is actually how we activate
Mm-hmm.
codes. Is like, say for instance, someone is around you, Jared, and all of a sudden they see and they feel how you live, and the embodiment of this code of liberation, and they go, I get it. And it's just like something activates within them, because now they have a context or a framework of understanding or an internal representation, where when we were born free, we were born perfect, whole, complete, and everything beyond that was just the stories and ideas and the things that we took on and we chose. And so it's like, as children, we were free to go, ooh, what is this? Do I like, oh, it's like, oh, you start to discover how your hands work and all your movements. And did you know that you were, when you're I think it's somewhere around, a baby moves somewhere in between 3,000 times in a minute, like the little tiny twists and jerks and da da da
Wow.
da da da. By the time we're a few years old, it's limited to like very strict movements, because we get taught how we're supposed to sit and be and act. And so you think about where our natural state is just complete curiosity, and which is creation energy, which is love energy, which is it's free to dance in and discover who am I, and like what do I like, and it's so it's I believe that we're here in our liberation is to discover our unapologetic expression of our unique self, because there is no way we could match one and one, right? Because we know that there's no way I could be you or you could be me or I could be like somebody else. Even if I want to model someone and say, ooh, I love that reflection or that how they live, when we think that we have to be like that, it's like we're 37.2 trillion unique cells. We have our own voice box, we have our own fingerprints, we have our own toe prints, we have our own belief systems, experience. So even twins could completely have, like you and your brother look like
Yeah.
twins. Your little brother, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, another little Jared going on. And it's like, yet you could grow up in the exact same household and have a completely different view of life and experience, because of your own experiences and belief systems. So for me, it's like knowing, when we come back to the framework, that comparison is the thief of all
Yeah.
joy. There is no way we could ever compare ourselves to anyone else, because we just are uniquely, literally designed as a completely unique miracle. And so our when we've been put then and grown in this box of this collective conformity that says this is how a successful life should be, this is how having it all should be, this is how, you know, life should look like. You came from the context of like, okay, if I could just then I'd be liberated, then I'd be success. Exactly. Right? And then you grew and evolved like, oh, whoa, wait, I had boxes and stories around a certain area of life. No, it gets to be liberation and everything. And I feel like for me to take it to another level of this year was, you knew, I mean, I built a multi-million-dollar empire, had $1 million clients, you know, have retreat company, masterminds, you name it. Right. And a beautiful, amazing, perfect flow life of having it all. And I got called to another level of liberation, which meant letting it all go. And so I feel like we go this journey, this dance of liberation becoming also, can I completely love myself, whole and complete, accept myself with radical self-acceptance without any identity of who I am, without any validation of who I am, any story, any connection. So for me, it was, can I let that go and give myself the space to experience a whole nother level of liberation, which means nothing on my schedule, literally go wherever I feel called to go, serve however I feel called to serve, experience whatever I feel called to experience, be with whoever I want to be with, buy whatever I want to buy, and just let from my essence come out whatever wanted to be there. And that was, so for me, the going from, okay, cool, I can create abundance and liberation in every area of my life. And now there's another level to that, which means I surrender to liberation being, I don't have an attachment or expectation to anyone or anything, and I can be whole and complete. And that is my liberation. That's my freedom.
100%. I love how detailed that was, and so on the money, and so deep, and so well thought out, because as you said,
I actually don't think about anything, Jared. You know that.
Forgive me as the way that I framed that was incorrect. I appreciate you becoming the best you can allow that to flow through you.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
But what's so beautiful about that is, you know, the biggest thing is creating a life without limitation, essentially, and allowing yourself to look at all the areas of life where you created limitation or put yourself into a box, as you said. And this is one reason why, you know, I catch myself every time I say I'm a liberation alchemist, I catch myself saying, oh, I'm giving myself a label. Because consciously I know that every time I give myself a label, it creates limitation again. You know, so the closest thing to a liberated and full expressive label I come up with was liberation alchemist. That didn't confine me to, you know, I'm a coach, or I'm a retreat facilitator, or I run workshops. It's like, it's an alchemist. And I think for me, you know, when we do work with people around identity, it's like, how do you create something that's progressive, that's dynamic, that gives you space to evolve and to renegotiate and to go, I am love, I am liberation, I am courage, I am something progressive that is a force that's moving forward on this planet, you know, because I think that any label, any label eventually creates limitation. It doesn't matter what it actually is, you know. There's a lot of people that have gone, like, they've said, I am vegan, but then that creates a limitation with itself.
It's exactly what I was thinking.
I'm a mother, which means that I'm a mother. So with that comes a set of limiting beliefs that then hold you to a certain experience in life, you know. So I think that
if you buy into the story of it, right? If you buy into the story of it, and I think the answer is all things.
Yeah.
So liberation can, just as much as liberation can be, like you're saying, like, how do I, because I feel like there's layers to this. The first layer was you did get to find a new identity, because the old identity that you had wasn't working, right? It was limited, and you're like, whoa. So we go, ooh, what's the identity we have? And whoa, what are those limiting identities? How do we shift that to be this identity of, you know, I'm worthy, and I give myself permission to unapologetically express myself. I'm worthy, and I give myself permission to ask for what I want, to do what I want, to not have to ask permission from another person or thing or stay in a box. And that's creating an identity. And you're tapping into and talking about that next level and layer where we realize that we go, ooh, any label. So it's almost, do we evolve to a place to go, like, there are no labels, and yet we still live in a world of labels. And that's the thing. It's like, can we actually accept all things? And I found it funny when you said the vegan thing, because this was a while ago. There was someone who reached out that wanted one of my courses, wanted my Divinity Keys course, which is diving deep into the gene keys, which I know you and Abby are starting to dive into as well. And they said they had messaged my team, and my team didn't know how to respond. So they sent me the message, and she was like, I really want to buy this course that Marci has. It's really calling to me, but I just want to know first, is she a vegan? And I found that so interesting. And you know, now she's done the course, she's in my program. I actually broke this down, and I see where she's coming from a place of passion that she wants to support people who are, you know, aware and conscious and aligned to having, you know, of course, treating animals just as other beings, which I am. And so the truth is, like, and my answer was, I actually don't label myself as anything, because any label would be creating separation.
Exactly.
If I create separation from any type of form of religion or person or race or anything, or even to say that person's like that, I don't like that person, guess what? I'm blocking manifestation and receiving, because that is a contraction towards something. It's a resistance energy, so it blocks being open and free to receive. So I said, I don't eat meat, yet I have no story of how, you know, it's like there's no label for how I eat. I tune into my body and what's required for me. So I said, what's interesting is someone will really want something, but we find stories to block ourselves from having it. I'm like, if you're feeling really called to want this, and yet your story is, I can only support people who believe like I believe, where actually, what are you're holding yourself back from receiving the information available for you to move forward in your life, and you're creating separation. So it was just like, that's one aspect to it. And I feel like, to just bring it back around to what you were saying, where it's like, how do I call myself a liberation alchemist, which I love. It's so is what you are. It's because you just like, it's whatever's in the way that's blocking someone's liberation is what you find, and you help them alchemize to be free. And that's really like what you're drawn to as your purpose and your why. And when we realize, okay, so if someone says, I'm a mom, I'm a mom, right? I'm a mom, I'm a sister, you're my brother, we have a sacred contract relationship. So it's like, of course there's labels, and we get to live in a world of all things. So if I can't accept myself in a label and say, I'm also this, I am also, just like I'm honest, I'm also manipulative. Because I can stand here and be like, I am a vessel of truth and full on authenticity and transparency, and I will share everything. And at the same time, my little girl inside is like, oh my God, am I enough? Are you sure? Like, is this going to be okay? So at the same time, that can be manipulation. So there is, we hold every single human trait within us. And so until we realize it's okay for me to be expressing something, and it might be constructed in a label, but how do I let go of anything in that label that is not of my highest, greatest good, that is not of the highest divine vibration, and is not liberating for me? So I can believe as a mom, I'm completely liberated. You knew that I took my kids and traveled all over the world, and they came to my retreats, and I still had my home base. And now we were all called to go. They're actually living with their dad for the first time ever. I've had my boys for 15 years full time. And so I got called to travel the whole world. And it didn't mean that I had to, it meant we're still experiencing liberation with that relationship experience. So I think, how do we be aware that all things exist? We're not pushing away anything, but we find ourselves liberated in all things.
100%. It resonates with me so deeply, and thank you for diving that layer deeper as well. And that's what it comes down to, you know, because I've actually had people message me that question, are you vegan? You know, and then that if it's like a way of quantifying whether I'm worthy to chat to, whatever it might be, you know. And I always respond with, you know, I go through periods where I am strictly plant-based, where I just literally nothing.
Right.
But what I do is I intuitively eat, and I feel into my body and what it's actually going to serve me moving forward. You know, it's kind of where I base more what I do from. So that then has no limitation to it. That then has no, I can't because it's this. I can't associate. It's like, for me, to tap into the highest, most authentic, and most embodied experience of liberation, it means letting that go, because that in itself can then go, oh, well, because you're not that, I can't give you the same love as I give somebody that is vegan, which again creates separation. It's like this energy of like, well, so if animals are all beings and so are all humans, you're going to create space between you and a human as opposed to an animal. And that's the part where there's the disconnect. You know? So it's a very interesting concept.
And we all have contracts.
Sorry?
Right? We all have contracts.
Exactly.
Just like you have the times where, because I'm exactly the same. There's been times when all of a sudden I'm called to eat meat. And it's like, and knowing the different levels of consciousness, you actually, whatever you put in your mouth, you're also taking on their
Exactly.
consciousness. So there's all these layers that you discover, but there's times when literally you're called to that. And then I go, and we're also eating plants. Plants are alive. When I was doing DNA activation in Damanhur, Italy, we had this machine that they would put on the plant, and it was hooked to a speaker, and the plant would sing and create music, different music every day, every moment.
Wow.
The plant, then they hooked it up to a door, and when someone was walking up, it opened the door.
Wow.
Like, they were, so just as much as plants are alive, we eat plants, right? And animals are alive and we eat animals. And so there comes that's why you nailed it in free liberation is, can I be completely in truth with my sovereignty, with my seership? So it's like one of my, teaching people to command their sovereignty. I trust my own seership, my intuition that is connected to my oversoul and highest guide. What is right for me in this moment? If I get called to eat something and all of a sudden I go, oh, well, there's a story there, I'm not free. And I'm actually going, yeah, and this animal also has a contract of being an animal and might be supporting. When I go pick, I was feeding this horse the other day, and when I went to pick the grass, I literally asked the grass, are you willing to be the food for this horse? And I asked the grass, and it was like, yes, okay, yes, okay, yes, okay, as crazy as that sounds. And there was some where I was like, no, they want to stay here. They're cool, right? And so it's just honoring all things as a part of our beautiful process and our journey. And so liberation is not only letting yourself be completely free, but that means you honor everyone else, that they are worthy of the same capability. They are worthy of their journey wherever it is. And that means all levels of consciousness, when we go, ooh, they're not awake. Well, you're actually the one not being awake, because they're actually just as highly divine, a tapped in being of light that's choosing this experience and this level of human consciousness right now that's in their experience, right? And so liberation, I think, goes way beyond us. It goes beyond shifting the constructs of the consciousness we live in. And when we hold that field of consciousness, we hold that for the collective. And that's when the collective, like I said, they're around you. They go, whoa, I see how you operate. Whoa, I saw that I was separating myself because of this idea and story. And now how do I be that? And we all rise together in love. Rise in
100%,
love.
100%.
Yes.
I love that you touched on that, and that is it. And it's it comes back to the conversation we had the other day about the concept of spiral dynamics, and the levels of consciousness and that kind of stuff. And it's like the embodiment of sovereignty, as you spoke about. It's that embodiment of like being able to see somebody else and not pass judgment based on their choices of how they want to experience life. So the highest levels, the higher levels of consciousness is about complete detachment and non-judgment, and just seeing and appreciating, being able to choose for yourself how you want to experience this life, and then meeting every single person where they're at, because that's the deepest level of compassion. It's like, how do I be a leader if I'm vegan, if I'm whatever the label it is, how do I be that? Yes, but do so in such a powerful, sovereign way that I have love and compassion for each and every individual where they're at. Because that energy of love and compassion is going to convert and support people in seeing your truth. Because the opposite energy, the aggressive energy, is what causes rejection and arguments and all the rest of things that then creates the separation again, So beautiful, beautiful place set conversation. But just on that, I feel that there's a few. I mean, we have had a million conversations, but
but we could geek out for so long.
Yeah, we could. One thing there's something that you said to me the other day that really landed really deep in my heart. And the beautiful thing is our friendship, this relationship is a beautiful reflection of that. And the experience that I've had in coming into divine sacred union with Abigail is that the journey, as we explained yesterday on our live, was actually to attract someone of that vibration. For me and for her, it was to embody that level of self-love for ourselves and unconditional love for our own being, which then manifested into us attracting each other the same vibration and frequency, which then now, from stemming from that, we can then now together hold space and share that love with everybody, with yourself, with all of our clients. And I can connect with any female, any male, same with her.
Yeah.
And there's no energetic or resistance or jealousy, because it's like, now we're tapping into the consciousness of love, which is beyond everything the human mind can comprehend.
Yeah.
So it's sitting here going, wow,
yeah,
I can freely express love for any person when I feel called to.
Yeah.
You know, and that
yeah. And you also feel like the divine sacred masculine that feels safe there, because you're giving that vibration. So you open that up for other females to know, oh, I truly am supported by aligned masculine. The masculine in alignment is the support, the you know, it's like it's aligned. The aligned masculine is taking action through inspired action, but the masculine field holding the feminine and the feminine holding the masculine, this beautiful balance. So it's like you experience this, like you can have this interaction with people and there's no iffy energy in between, because it's coming from a clean place, and that's what you're giving off, which is so beautiful. You guys both are so divine.
100%. Thank you for that acknowledgement. And honestly, one of the most humbling experiences that I get to have on a regular basis is being able to connect with women and know that my intentions are pure, and for them to actually feel it authentically, and for them to get that feedback regularly, where I can message almost anybody and I get a response and I get this conversation begin, or I could be at a workshop and I gaze with another woman, or be facilitating the workshop and I gaze with the woman, or do whatever I need to do to support that person, to stepping back into their body, into their heart, whatever is required. I can step into that role and be that masculine presence and an example they can see, because what isn't present enough, which I'm really grateful that I'm in this experience at the moment, is experiences, environments, communities where we can actually fully express ourselves to the opposite sex, and for there not to be any insecurity, fear, and attachment on either end to an outcome.
To be fully seen, fully heard, fully safe. That was my journey in this liberation was, and I mean, you were mentioning that there was something that dropped in really strong for you. And I also want to bring to then what you said, though, it's aligning the divine feminine and masculine within. When you're in divine union from within, you get to be balanced in your own feminine masculine, so that can reflect from without. And that's also why, like, you know, it was a while ago that I was like, I'm calling in my divine besties of light, my allies, my soul companions, my soul family. And my entire world is only relationships. Like, you popped into my field. It was even a funny thing how it's like, you know, it's just like it's just soul family just pops in your field, and we're all operating from this place of light. But yet when you're holding that field, and then you can interact with any being, I get that a lot too, where it's like, I just feel completely safe to ask you any question, to fully express, because we're operating from full expression and authenticity and transparency. There's nothing to hide and there's nothing to prove. Why would we put any energy towards anything other than just being, right? And so in being that alignment, and as we were talking about that before, it was like what I said is, if we want to bring wholeness and peace to the world, we get to be wholeness and peace. You can only, by being wholeness, you bring wholeness. But when you're like, oh, if the world was peaceful and I want the world to be peaceful, well, you can't bring anything other than what you are, and you can't receive anything other than what you are. So when anyone that wants divine union, just as you described, you guys going through your journey to come to that vibration, was when you could receive that vibration without. And what I'm saying is, and when we had that conversation, what I was saying is that, and when you find that when you come into divine union with yourself, you become your own beloved. You see and experience everyone as your beloved. Everyone is in divine union. I'm in divine union with all the animals. I'm in divine union with all the plants. I'm in divine union with every single being, and I see everyone as my beloved. And it's probably why my language, if people watch my languaging, it's like lover, lovey, sweetness, gorgeous, beautiful, dear. I call everyone very endearing things, because that's all I see. And I see just everyone's divine beauty and glory. And as you said earlier, when we go in and we're in any environment where anyone's in anything, like if I go into a store or something, and I can feel, and I feel the collective, because even the more attuned you become, the more sensitive you come in your energy with it. And I feel the collective, and I'll start picking up on collective thoughts. And in the past, it would have been like affected me, or I would have felt like I had to shield or guard myself. But it's like, how can I choose? And I was having a conversation with a good friend earlier this morning as we did a show around how can I, choose to want to serve the masses, but not want to be with the masses. That's separation, right? And so it becomes aligning yourself to this field and this vibration, like you're talking about, where I know that when I walk into any environment, see my intention and my clear calling, and I call in a little bubble shield of light around me to support and protect me, that only the vibrations can come within that bubble that are of the highest and greatest light, that are operating from unconditional love, that are already healed and whole. And I have my whole thing. And I know that when I walk in, I literally see my essence and energy goes, and I am the field and the vibration of the highest divine frequency of love. Because as humans, we don't even know what and I won't say that because that's very limiting. We continue to get curious on what the divine frequency of unconditional love is, because our imprinting and our experiences, we have internal representations and human conditioning that tell us what love is. So have we ever really truly experienced divine unconditional love? Now, I believe I have, as I've been in plant medicine and I've done so many things, and I've attuned myself more and more and more. And as I do my own clearings and things, I'm always like, I'm imprinting and decalcifying my pineal gland, and I'm creating my vibration to be divine unconditional love. Yet when you come into that divine union and pure love for yourself, like you said, the only thing that you can see and you can push that out for other people to feel affected. And it's truly like our greatest gift to be able to do. And I swear I had one other thing that I was thinking as you were sharing that, about just our experience of divine union, in that conversation that we had in divine union. But ultimately, I think it comes down to, if there's anything lacking in your life, or if there's anything where we find ourselves in these stories of if or when or could, we're not taking radical responsibility of our divinity as a sovereign creator, to go, in any experience I walk into, can I be at peace? And that's why peace is my ultimate priority. And you know what's funny, Jared, because this last year, as you knew, I was called to let everything go and go on this whole global journey and have no attachments to things. All these things kept getting stripped away. That was like, oh, I see that I had an attachment to that thing. I really like that thing. Got it. And as I said, every day in my practices, it was like, I am peace. I am at peace with all things, all beings, all experiences. Well, the universe was like, okay, let's see if you're in peace with this. And like would bring me all these fun little, I was like, thank you, universe, for letting me see what else inside me got to be healed and loved, that I could be at peace with this, and I could be at peace in this experience. So it's continually our greatest gift for ourselves, to take radical responsibility, to be free, to bring it back to liberation, is are we at peace with all things and in all experiences? Because that is complete liberation. That means in every moment you can choose to eat whatever you want to eat. And is it actually freeing and liberating you, versus being like, my little girl really wants a treat, I'm going to do this. There's that side of the spiritual journey too, where people are like, oh, I'll just have whatever I want. And that's not actually serving you. So there's this beautiful dance to complete liberation, which we're always in, which really just comes back to honoring everyone and honoring yourself and being completely at peace with all things.
100%. And there's so much there to unpack, but I completely want to honor everything you've just said. So powerful. And one thing that I feel that isn't spoken about enough by thought leaders and people that are of influence is this energy of, be mindful when you make a statement to the universe of what you want to experience, being peace in your case, or joy or love, because it's going to throw you every circumstance for you to move through any limitations you have around that experience. And it'll keep on bombarding you and bombarding you until you get to a point where when you say, I embody love, you're like, holy shit, after what I've been through, and now how I'm experiencing myself, I do embody love, because I've had that being challenged over 6 years, and this came up, and this came up, and this friendship got challenged, and this relationship, and this partner, and my children, all of the things that are attached to that particular frequency then get challenged. So
Yeah.
which I love
To go,
because
can you actually really be love?
yeah,
Right?
it
That's
makes
what
you
it did
prove
for you.
to yourself
Mm-hmm.
too, because then you can sit there with confidence when you say you embody something. It's like a place of confidence because you
Mm.
know you've been through what it takes to get to that frequency and to
Yes.
hold that frequency, you know. And
Yes.
that is something that I love. And what's been interesting, like a lot of the work I've done recently, as you know, has been around sexual healing, and it has. I was saying on a live yesterday, the only thing that I could have, the only thing that I in the depths of my integration, which I'm still going through, could honestly say that I still embodied was health. Everything else, I'm like, it's gone out the window. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm in such an upgrade phase and such a my character's been
Surrender.
yeah, it's been so like just like fragmented and distorted and like torn to
Yeah.
pieces that I feel like I'm out of integrity in so many areas of my life, which the me now looks at that as a celebration. It's like beautiful because when I move through this and overcome what I'm experiencing
Yeah.
now, what I will experience in my own embodiment will be love and courage and all of those beautiful things, you know. So
Right.
I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest things that I feel called to share with anybody that watches this or just in general, it's like just being able to have the presence in the process when we make a statement, when we say to anything or anybody, or we want to experience more love or we want to tap into more joy. It's like beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have the presence to sit in what comes up next. The universe is giving you what you need to be able to hold that frequency
Right.
for prolonged periods of time, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful you bring that to presence, because this is where I find it so interesting is because my gifts are really seeing all the tiny micro disalignments, and, you're actually, you have a vision ability as well. Like, so you see a lot of the things in between. Right. And so it's like people will literally be speaking to, oh, this is what I want. And something pops up as their opportunity to move forward on that. And it's interesting. They don't even and then they're in the, well, when, da, 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 and if, and down that, and it's like story,
Mm-hmm.
story. And we get to realize that, like you said, whenever you call for something, this is our greatest gift. It's actually our soul's kindest act we set up for ourselves, whatever's in front of us. And that's why I always say you are your own purpose. Like, so many people are like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And see, that's coming from a scared, smaller self place that says, I need to know I have a reason I exist. I need to see that I'm a success or have something there to say that I'm worthy of being here. The truth is, you're fucking worthy right now. You don't have to do or be anything other than you this is for you. The whole purpose is you. And if we can become aware that every single interaction in front of us is for a reason, every single interaction is a contract. And we were up there with our highest aligned, our oversoul and our highest self, and we're down there going, whoo, I'm gonna plan every little fucking moment of this journey, right? Because it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. And then we get down here and we're like, I did not fucking sign up for this shit. And we're like, yes, you did. And our highest self is like, breathe. That's right. I did. I asked for this. And so what I really want people to hear and embody is that what, like you said, if we knew that every single word we speak, if it was like genie on your shoulder, ching, that's done and that's on. And it's given to you. If you knew the power of think and speak and feel, and that you are just vibration, and literally you're actually 0.0000001% matter. You're actually 99.9999999% energy. So you're more energy than you are matter. And so everything is just this vibrational field of energy. And so if you really attune to anew, if I was going to be embodying my divinity, would I speak that? Would I do that? Would I think that? Would I feel that? And we can catch on knowing, obviously, our divinity is also all things. It's our shadow. It's all of it, right? Yeah, I think it begins with radical self-acceptance. When you catch those moments and you breathe and you go, that's right. Okay, so how can I even accept that my little girl is like, I do not want to do that. But it's like, that's remembering that, yes, actually what I do want to embody is living in love. So how can I, as we breathe and we lean in and we get soft with ourselves and curious, this is how our human behaviors get to interact, to go, how can I lean into what is here for me? And how would that be possible? And so we move into loving the next little step that allows us to embody that. Because, and what I felt so strongly as you were talking, Jared, is that bringing presence to people that, I mean, here we're both living really fucking fantastical lives. Like I couldn't have even imagined the life that I live in now, back when I was that $2 an hour waitress with 2 little boys to feed and how to survive. And I never would have thought that I'd have $1 million clients or any of that stuff. And you're living this amazing life. And yet listen to what we're talking about. We're both talking about living in surrender sandwich all the time. And like because it's just like, this is our journey. The thing is, we're so open and embracing it, and we geek out on it because we know it is our pathway to our greatest liberation. And so if anything, I want people to hear that it's not just like let me just do this one, like people will buy this one program or listen to this one book, instead of realizing every single day you are the purpose. Like whatever shows up in front of you, if you're not at peace with it, and this is how black and white simple it can be, if you're not at peace with it, it's like, interesting. Let me just I'm noticing I'm feeling some heavy energy in my body. And let me get curious about this, just to get what is here for me. And if we were simply just in giving ourselves permission to live in our own experience of whatever is here, can you imagine how much every single day? And this is why when we're experiencing life like this, I don't know if you relate to this. I remember way back in the day, as I really first dove into this, self-empowerment, which I feel like is, we still just have a very surface self-empowerment society. It can go so much deeper, which you and I have kind of done the journey of. It was like my life would shift so drastically every 6 months. Then it became every 3 months. Then it became every month. Then it became every week. Now it's like literally my day was fucking a crazy different life like yesterday, because every day we're so open to seeing every interaction in front of us and what's here and what's going on in our body and our system and what we're thoughts and we're thinking to, how do I embrace this to then be fully with it? And the only thing that is required for healing is full presence. And you said that. You said presence. And any emotion can fully be worked through in 7 days tops. And I'll give you just this last week. I think I mentioned this. So we got a little update chat the other day, right? And we we're talking about, all these things. And I think I shared with you how my little girl had some triggers. And from something just that popped into my field, I felt something in my body. And I was like, interesting, what's this about? Now, my human brain, if it would have tried to go figure it out from my mind, it would have had nothing to do with what I was feeling in my body. I actually felt a feeling of betrayal. And I was like, ooh, wow, betrayal. Like, where did that, what is that about? And I felt that I let myself fully feel this feeling of betrayed. And then I saw my connections to betrayal and a pattern of it at different times in my life. And even though I've worked through it, this is what I want people to hear, is that you'll go back to core wounds and you'll think, what the fuck? I worked through this thing forever ago. But it pops back into your field because it shows another little layer that finally is available that you're willing to see and heal. So I felt betrayal. And then I asked, what's underneath that? And I felt abused. And I was like, what's underneath that? And then I felt abandoned. And I was like, what's underneath that? And I felt I'm not good enough, which is and I'm not good enough was like, that's why I'm not worthy of being supported, and I'll be abandoned and I'll be abused. Anyways, what it led me to, the beautiful gift it led me to underneath that, was I discovered and felt that my 15-year-old little girl, when my father died, I literally never even cried when my father died, because I had to be the strong one. I went and got 3 jobs to help support my family. I mean, if people dive into like the documentary they made of my life and hear my life's journey, it's like a shit ton of trauma. And so it was already based in sacrifice and settle and hardship. Yet I realized at 15 years old, because I had to just hold it all together, I never cried. I never showed any emotion. So I never even grieved my father's death. And suddenly I got hit with this memory, and I just started bawling. And I literally, for about 5 hours, I moved through the depths of feeling every pain of grief and sadness and losing my dad. My little girl was convulsing. My 15-year-old had all these things to say. I had an astral conversation, had all these things to say about how I felt betrayed and abandoned, because I believed he would get better. because he had a dream and said he'd get
Mm.
better. And so the last 6 months of his life, even when he was so sick, he would barely make it home from work, and he'd go hide in his room because all he could do was lay down. And I would just not even go in there because I just felt so much pain in seeing him sick. So what I saw is, oh, I betrayed my father. So you see how we go, oh, I had this perception. How do I own it? And there's so many gorgeous gifts of learning in just what shows up. And this showed up from a business thing, something that happened with one of my team members that was like, I felt like I felt a betrayal. It just, or whatever it was, it connected in my body to betrayal. And then as I went the layers, I had this huge releasing. And after that, I felt a whole other level of love and light. And there was a whole nother level of healing done that I was just like, wow, that was hiding in me that I didn't even know. So that's the beauty of what we have. And that is liberation, is freeing ourselves from any past traumas, experiences, because we know that in our cells of our body, one cell vibrates 500,000 times more power than a single thought. So when we tell ourselves these positive affirmations all day long, if we're not clearing what's actually embedded in our bodies from our experiences, that's what we're putting out as our frequency. So, I mean, it's always right in front of you, and our liberation is up to us. And I think that's the biggest message for anyone, is they get to choose to embrace what's in front of them.
Wow, 100%. And what that shines light on is embodiment. And that's what is the greatest gift you can give. If you are a leader, the greatest journey you will have is becoming the embodiment of your message. And one thing that I love that so much. And by the way, if any of you guys I know you guys are enjoying this. If you've got any questions for us, please just drop them in the comments. We'll get to them at the end. One thing that I love is, out of all of my really cool cosmic friends that I'm meeting recently, you're someone that I would say has probably done, like, there's a lot of people that have been in the work for 20 years, but the level of work you've dived into for the last, is it 15, 20 years? Like, when you tell me some stories, I'm just like, wow, okay. Like the extent you've gone to. And then on the flip side of that, the success you've experienced, not just financially, but as in who you are as a person. And I think that what's really beautiful about this conversation is that you have the awareness that vulnerability creates connection, that ability to also share your story. Because one thing that becomes ineffective for people is they'll do something really deep. They'll do like a deep breathwork journey or plant medicine, or they'll do some sort of healing or past life regression, and think that they've let go of the identity or the limiting belief that I'm not worthy, or I'm not enough. And then when it resurfaces, they then decide to allow themselves to reattach to that limiting belief and say, I knew it. I told you. I'm not enough. And what I really appreciate, and this is why I do the very best that I can to be as vulnerable as I can on a consistent basis, and I've started showing even more vulnerably on my Instagram of late, is because every single person that people look up to still moves through and has triggers around being worthy. Even the people like yourself that are like very sovereign, like the embodiment of sovereignty, and can stand in their power and can command a beautiful container and hold space for a lot of people, and the frequency of vibrating is very high, essentially. Even in that, that limiting belief still wants to come in and just go, hang on a second, let's see, did you really heal that? And then what you get to do, with the awareness that you have, what we get to do is go, I get that. And being able to go, okay, it was betrayal, which turned into abandonment, which turned into something else. And then it was, I'm not enough, and just having the awareness to see that, so I think that a big thing, like, I've done a lot of work around self-worth and self-love and all of that kind of stuff. But the truth is, every time I do something else that's deeper again, whether it's like a different type of training or somatic experience or plant medicine or whatever it might be, is those wounds that I thought that I had worked through sometimes come back to the surface.
Pop up.
But the gift and what we gain the ability to do is have awareness to catch that and dissect what that actually is, to then have that remembrance again, and then go, okay, perfect, thank you, done. And in that process, let go of the energetic, the emotion attached to it as well, or the trauma.
There's actually two sides to that I really believe are powerful to bring presence to, like you're saying. And this is what I'm saying. We're talking about, we're still always finding the things, because, and so it just to destroy the myth for people, or at least expand their minds to see what is available or possible, is anytime we put shame, or blame or judgment, we are attaching that energy. So if we go, oh, I thought I worked through this forever ago, and we shame it. Why should I? And I would see this with high level, even $1 million clients. We would work through stuff, and then something would trigger them. And all of a sudden an old pattern of wanting to sabotage with food would show up or something. And they're like, man, like I haven't wanted to do that forever. Or I thought, da, 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 da. And I always let them know, I'm like, beautiful. Like whenever my clients were in their shit, I'm like, awesome. And they're like, because I knew that meant we were confronting their next level of comfort zone. Because when you've had all these patterns and these programs for so long, that the universe is, again, your ego. See, people even fight their ego. I think your ego is one of your very best friends.
Well, wait,
when you try to shove the ego in a closet.
Okay.
What? A whole nother direction.
Okay, wait. I want you to keep going. Sorry, I stopped you in your tracks, but you're the only person I've heard say that. And I had that belief.
Really?
I brought it forward to a few friends in the past.
Yeah.
And due to beliefs of other spiritual teachers, I've gone, no, it's something you should kick, you should hate it. And I'm like, yeah. Sorry, I'm taking this on a tangent, but there was an element.
Does that make sense? So, hate anything? Yeah. The energy of hate, the energy of fight, the energy of push or struggle or strive or try. Energy is energy, and energy never lies. If I hate my ego, if I fight my ego, I am fighting myself. And does that make any sense? If I am truly made of love energy, and I want to, so it's definitely a mental shift. There's a lot of, that's why I say, I believe a lot of the self-empowerment we do, I still see as very surface self-empowerment. It's a scratching, it's a start.
Totally agree. And
yeah.
Because how this manifested for me was, as I was developing a greater level of awareness, I started to really be able to define, this is a couple of years ago, okay, what's my ego and what's my intuition? What's spirit and what's my ego?
Yes.
What's the highest self trying to say to me, and what's my ego trying to say? And then it started becoming, because my most common self-love practice, I wouldn't do it in like the standing in the mirror. I would drive around and I would have conversations with myself whilst I was driving. And I would just love on myself for like 20 minutes at a time whilst driving it, and remind myself of who I truly am. And that was like a self-love practice of mine, which then evolved into this beautiful awareness around when I would have an idea, an opportunity or something, and I'd get imposter syndrome or anxiety would come up or fear would come up. I would converse with my ego and turn it into this game, and I'd be laughing with it. I'm like, I can see it.
Right.
What you're trying to do is amazing. You're beautiful, and you're doing your job. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate because you've done so much for me in the past. But what I'm going to choose in this moment is this. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. The ego. That's why I say it really is your best friend. If you think about it as like, it's like we talk to our little boy, little girl inside, right? Our little girl, little boy inside is who is running our life. Okay. Bottom line, your pre-7-year-old is in charge of your life right now. You have not upgraded the conversation because you're up until 7 years old, you were operating only from your unconscious mind. There was no logic. There was, I saw, I heard, I felt, I decided. And so it all is emotional based. And yet there wasn't oh, you know what? Mom was yelling because ... She's stressed. There was simply, I heard this. I should have done that. They're mad at me. If I don't act and show up this way, then I'm not loved. And we create these decisions. So now we evolve through consciousness and we go, oh my gosh, my little girl made this contractor hazardous safety. So when I first got offered, some people have heard me share the story, when I first got offered national television back in the day when I was the body, mind, nutrition, fitness expert on ABC4, right when I got offered, the very next day, I couldn't even walk because all of a sudden I went to get out of bed and my foot completely gave out for no reason at all. Connecting that to masculine energy, moving forward, afraid of moving forward in life. And it kept coming up. And when I realized, and I had a conversation with my little girl inside was like, you are not getting on TV, because if you are seen, you will be attacked. Because I had stalkers, rape attempts, kidnappers. I had all this fear. So even being beautiful was unsafe for me. Being seen was unsafe for me. And now, guys, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm here. right? Like I'm here to be, that was my journey to move through. And so I had to create something in my life as resistance, my ego. So if you could take it as your ego, which is just really the little child inside you that took contracts on to keep you safe, said, oh, no. We're going to have these stories and these thoughts and all these things are going to come up to keep us. And also knowing egoic is of self. So see, when we're only about ourselves, but when we evolve to the consciousness, like we've been talking about being at peace with all things, being connected to all beings, all things, being in love and honor of all things, we shift our languaging to we, because I am them, they are me, this is that. Like, oh, it's like we are all one. So all of a sudden the egoic self becomes the we collective allness self, and it's coming from heart-based consciousness. And so there is nothing to fight, but the ego is actually your partner in your ascension. So it goes, when you go, I don't want to hear you, I'm going to throw you in the closet and slam the door. All it's doing is you've got this, like, the mind chatter that's going banging on the door. It's like, you're not enough. Da, 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 da. It's just, it wants to be heard. And if you open the door, it's just like you open a dark room and what happens is light comes into the room. If you actually open up a conversation with your ego and you say, what is it, sweetie? What would you like to say? What are you feeling and thinking? And it's like, I'm scared. You're not supposed to do this. This is how it's supposed to be. So when I had that conversation with my little girl was simply like, no. If we get on TV, we're going to be attacked. We're going to be seen. And I was like, oh, sweetie. Oh, thank you for letting me know. That's what you're feeling and thinking. That's what you're afraid of. And that's the contract we made with ourselves to be safe, was to stay unseen. And when I got to allow all that emotion and it to be heard, which you could call this also ego, your inner child, your little boy, little girl, that's literally just, this is what my construct of consciousness or belief systems or programs were based out of, was to say, I know that in the past, that's how we thought we would be protected, is to stay hidden. But guess what? What we know now is, sweetie, that is when we stay hiding in the dark is when we're the most unsafe. When we're standing in the light to be seen is when we have all of our angels around us, is when we find the people that we love and our friends and the people that are searching for our message. And so as we become in partnership with ourself, because truly we're living in parallel lifetimes right now. There's no such thing as time. We could go super woo-woo cray cray. We know that, Jared. We could go all sorts of places, into timeline hopping and DNA activation. And so, like you said, I have dove deep for 20 years. Yeah, it's like if when we become in partnership with our evolution and the bigger picture, the multi-generational even programs or contracts that are happening, we know we came here to heal this. Everything we're experiencing, we chose to heal. And our ego is just a part of that, where it's taken on the human consciousness and it's learning it. When you realize, when you allow your ego to know, see, your ego thinks if you evolve, I'm gone.
Exactly.
Because my job is to keep you safe. But when you partner with your ego and you say, sweetie, we're on this ride together, the faster we ascend, the more together we receive joy and pleasure and peace. It's like, okay. So it's always breaking it down to just how can I feel safe to take the next inch and the next step into allowing myself to be that. So I mean, I know that's like the whole spinoff on ego, but I know where we were going before. I was like, what were we going on before? Oh, so let's just bring it back. Yeah. Okay. Is that because we want people to hear and understand that it's when we have something show up that triggers us, there's no judgment about it. That's the thing, is to go see. And so that's why I say, I truly believe we require now, which I believe you do this, Jared, and you've been called lately, like you were telling me, that you're feeling very called to share even more vulnerably your stories of like what you're going through personally. And that was a call for me a long time too, is like, there's transparency, nothing to hide, nothing to prove. That's a whole nother level of my own stand for embodiment, and knowing I'm giving other people permission by them seeing that too. And so if we knew, I believe we require leaders now that will stand in full radical self-acceptance, not just like, well, I'm going to share my pretty Instagram picture with you, and I'll share when I'll pick the things for you to see. So then everyone has this idea and image of what having it all looks like. And they still feel, oh, I'm not there. I'm never enough. It's down the road. It's beyond me. When we're trying to say, guys, right fucking now, like I told you this morning, I was like, I had all this stuff showing up for me, and I was like, ooh, and I got to be like, does this feel good? And bringing myself into alignment. And you and I were in flow with making this work, and the energy. And it's just, so it's like, we're always in perfectly our own journey. And the more that we can share, and you can know that if something shows up, there's no judgment or shame about it. It doesn't mean that you haven't evolved or you haven't made it through this far. It means, I believe, we have the same specific pain points or core wounds or triggers that will pop back up to let us know what is there that we get to heal and love. So even though an old pattern might show up and you're like, man, I worked on this thing forever ago. Instead, I always tell my clients, it's like, thank you. Like, again, going into acceptance and interesting, like, what am I feeling? What is this about? Why is that? And it's just to find that next little layer of what else you get to heal and love that gives you your next level of freedom. So instead, when we have open arms for it, no matter what it looks like, it's to drop the story idea that we ever evolve through things. So there's 2 points to that. One is things will always show back up. And it doesn't mean that you haven't healed it. It means there's something else beautiful that it's letting you know, pay attention, pain, pay attention. I'm feeling something that's not in flow and ease and grace. Whatever is on the other side of resistance is there to receive. And most people see they don't get to the receiving because they block themselves and stay in the resistance, or they don't want to lean into the resistance. But also on top of that, I do believe that there is, as you allow and lean into these things, you do come to a place where there's plenty of things that they don't ever affect you again. Like, I've seen so many clients as well as myself where it's like, yeah, that's how, I mean, I used to need certainty and to know what life was going to look like. And now it's like, I love the uncertainty and the flow and the dance with life of bringing me all my gifts. And I trust the process of life. So that doesn't necessarily show up for me, but there's still times that it can. And so it's like, it's just knowing, instead of there being I have to get to an end destination, what if right here and now is my perfect destination, and I'm at peace with that, and I choose to be in whatever I'm in. And that is liberation.
I'm just letting that settle for
so much fun and joy.
On the money, so I'm just letting that settle for a little bit.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel you, my brother. I love you so much. I love you
too, like, deeply. And it's what's beautiful is the feeling, and I'm just going to share this openly online. When, like, we speak almost every second day, whatever it might be, but then there's this element of, like, it's as if you've sent out a vibration across the planet to where I'm at, and then I receive it and I throw it back. It's like this energetic, like, throw love back and forth. Because I'll be in the middle of a workout, not even looking at my phone or anything else, and just my process, and I'll be like, man, I love Marci. Damn. You know what I mean? And then it's really interesting to feel that, and that then comes back to that embodiment of love, you know, because my reference point of who you are and who you be is love, you know, unconditional love, and that's my experience of you from before I'd met you, and then even like now getting to know you better. That's how this person views you, you know, which is so beautiful, such a blessing, you know. And I think that coming back to the conversation around sacred union and being able to be in love or love anybody or everybody or everything, you know, from the grass to the animals to your fellow humans to the aliens out in the universe.
It's so juicy. It's so good, right? Yeah.
Because see, with that is that to me feels so good. Like it's a consistent feeling that is something you can tap into and remind yourself of every single day. Because at any moment, you can go really, really deep. But I mean, even to the element of like with crystals and going into nature and just tuning into the frequency of your surroundings and your environment. You know, I think one of the best revelations I've had recently was, you know, I'd heard the concept many times. You know, everything is God, and I'd heard it so many times. You know, and even in
can you find God in everything?
Exactly.
Can you find the magic and the God in everything?
Exactly. Yeah. Everything is a reflection of love and God and consciousness. But what happened was I had a moment where this was actually just recently, and you know how when it's like an element of your DNA fires off and it falls back into place, and your body understands it. So I was walking and I was in a bit of a to be real, the statement that I say, how I've been feeling, people have been asking me, how am I? Like, people are checking in on me, like Adam and a few of the crew are checking in on me based on my recent experience. And the most common thing I've been saying is my head is scattered, my heart's confused, but my soul's just like, you've got this. Just stay with it. You got this. This is all part of the plan. You know what I mean? But in one of my most broken, call it fragmented experiences that I had about 3 weeks ago, I was walking at Lake Hodges here in San Diego, and I couldn't find a place that I wanted to sit at, you know, and I wanted to go. I'd be like, oh, yeah, that looks good and comfortable, and I walk all the way up to the lake and then all the way back, and then I looked at 17 different locations. It felt like. Then I turned around and I looked. I was just staring at the lake and the trees, and I turned around. I looked at the mountain, and I'm like, what my intuition said was, everything is divine. But it was the experience of being in that and being so lost and like dismantling my reality for me to then go, everything is divine. Everything is the universe. Everything is God. Everything is that vibration. Every single thing, even the man-made things that we have all made, because a person that is a reflection of divine or of God or whatever we want to call it, made that. So it's an extension or a reflection of that, you know. And it just hit me. And then when I went to go journal, it was just like this flood of stuff is coming through me. And I was just like, wow. You know, so it's just...
Right.
We get to choose to tune into that frequency. We get to do the work in ourselves. And we get
Well, we are.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's not a matter of...
And the thing that I love that you brought was... Go ahead, babe. Finish that.
What I was gonna say is all that I feel that it requires is us, number one, believing it's possible, believing that it's the truth, allowing ourselves to let go of any attachment to any of one word could mean. Like, even the word God, like, I grew up Christian, but I don't identify as Christian now. I believe in the universe and everything else in between. But just allowing yourself to just let go of that construct in itself as a complete thing, and just going, it doesn't matter what word I'm using. It's just, this is how I'm expressing what I'm feeling in this experience of consciousness right now. You know, so, but I'll let you carry on.
Right. Oh, I was just going to say that the what you brought it back to is that everything we are experiencing is sacred, and everything because even if we're in our shit, like you were feeling confused, and it's like, that is like that you're being open. So it's like, as you do plant medicine, as you do, you know, you did deep sexual healing work, etc. It's like the fragmented parts of ourselves are, so that we're actually activating codes within our body. We're remembering, we're decalcifying our pineal gland. We're doing all these things that then all of a sudden it's like, I was telling Abby where I was saying, babes, every time, you know, you're always going to be like, as you're in integration, because your whole body is like attuning to a new level of energy that you can hold, a new level of consciousness that you can see. So now all of a sudden you walk around and you see God in everything, and you see perfection in everything, you see sacredness in everything. And it's like that statement, before enlightenment, it's like chop wood, gather water. After enlightenment, chop wood, gather water. You still are, so it's like, that's what I mean by, and it's interesting. It's a reflection of my spiritual name that I was given just in India by, you know, one of my an incarnated master. He literally named me Sundari. And Sundari means divine beauty, universal beauty. And of course, it made me bawl my eyes out, because I'm like, my whole life was rejecting beauty. My whole life was, I'm not safe to be beautiful. I can't be seen. I can't be heard. I can't be expressed. I can't be who I am. And my message now really encapsulate divine beauty is that there is beauty in everything. There's magic everywhere, in our shadow. And that's why I say in our ego, that's beautiful. And whatever shit we're feeling. So I love the analogy you gave, that you were feeling, you know, all these fragments and yourself, there was no solid ground, and there didn't need to be. That was beautiful. And at the same time, you could find your highest knowing self said, I trust this. I trust that this is also for my soul. This was the act I created this was the kindest act I could have ever given myself in this moment for my highest, greatest good. So I trust what looks like chaos, and know that beyond it is clarity, and know that beyond it is communion with more things. It is union with all. It is more discovery of myself. And so, you know, it's such a beautiful, glorious journey. If that's all we can tell people, is that it's not meant to look a certain way. You don't need to get somewhere else. It's all right here and available for you. And this is actually, if anything, I really would love people to embrace the juiciness that's here. Because as we said, when we become at one with all things, literally like every breath of air is so juicy to me. And like you can be looking at anything and it's so juicy. And it's like my sensuality codes got activated and I'm like, everything is so juicy. It's so good. And that's our kundalini. That's our activation of our creation energy. All the things that allow us to be divine sovereign creators. The more we embrace what is here with us now, the more we become liberated to find and see all the gifts available that through our construct of consciousness before we're like, we're wearing blinders and we don't see all the good. And all of a sudden we're like, whoa, there's amazingness and awesomeness everywhere. So, you know, really with what you call this, like in liberation, it's coming back to, we are all free. We are all free, sovereign master creators to literally experience whatever we want, choose into whatever we want. Like you said, choose the vibration, choose to see the good, choose to lean into your emotions, choose to be with all of you, and choose to just receive all that's here available for us that we chose in on. It's like Disneyland for us. We just get to remember we chose in on this as Disneyland.
100%. I think that as well. Like I think, yeah, so beautiful. What I was going to share is that there's the element to, you know, when we invest in ourselves. Like for me recently, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on my recent experience, you know, and I could have the expectation that, oh, I'm healed and I'm done and I'm like, this is everything. And all of those things that come with that expectation.
Yeah.
But the realization that I have is that the more of that work that I do, the more deep work that I do, all of a sudden to manifest financial success as you've experienced so deeply, is the more I allow myself to clear out my vessel and tune into my highest frequency, to then manifest money then becomes this like game. It's not even like, oh, I have to work really hard, as we've spoken about.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the most powerful downloads that I received it would have been about 4.5 months ago. I was still in Bali. And I was sitting there and my ego was like, oh, I need to do some marketing to get this particular thing out. Marketing out, you know, it was a program or whatever it may have been at the time. And what I decided to do is my intuition said, no, you need to spend 2 hours in stillness.
Yeah.
And the download was, it's not about new strategy, new marketing, new this, spending more money on marketing, whatever it might be, or finding something else out. What kept getting repeated to me was, you get to continue to work on your vibration, raising your vibration.
Right.
And allowing that to be a beacon of light for things to then be attracted to you.
Yep, and that's all it is.
And I literally sat there and I was just like, I don't know what to say or think. I just need to, you know, and since that day, Abby and I spend about 4 hours a day in ritual. It just like, I mean, everything is turning into ritual essentially now, but like of time when we like, oh, we gotta get this done, this. It's like, no. What we get to do is we might breathe for an hour right now, just an hour of breathwork together. Let's just see how that feels. Let's see what comes through from that. And really, really doing the work to nourish our vessel to become that frequency. Our connection came from you vibrating a particular frequency and me noticing you and then messaging you. And then you said, hey, your face came into my awareness yesterday. And it wasn't that you weren't surprised, but it was one of those beautiful moments of like synchronicity. Of course you messaged me and you just came into my awareness. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I just think that the message that we get to tie this in a bow with in doing the work, because what we're sharing so much of is this energy of like, you're not trying to get anywhere. You can't fully heal yourself. It's almost impossible to fully do that. I mean, if we reach enlightenment, which, you know, some people may get there, maybe so be it. We still don't know if that is the end all, be all and end all. But the reality of it is like, we get to realize that we start the journey to begin the process, to delay the limiting beliefs, to then continue to become the frequency that attracts more abundance, more experiences, better relationships, more aligned tribe and community. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, I'm going to go into this next journey. And that's the progressive journey of self-development, of self-inquiry, and really allowing ourselves to just go, wow, I get to celebrate that I'm in this journey for life. I get to bring reverence to the fact that I even have the ability to feel and to tap into love and to keep on deepening that, because I could imagine, like, I mean, when I had my first ayahuasca ceremony, I'm like, wow, I've never experienced that level of embodied love. But then the truth is, since then, I've done so many other things that have given me a deeper experience of that same feeling, to then allow me to be a deeper embodiment of that message or that experience or whatever that could turn into, you know? So I think it's really finding the juice in that, where you're expecting to get to, it may be beautiful, and it's just a stepping stone to something deeper and juicier and greater and more fulfilling. And as you kept on saying, it's the more you do it, the more everything in your experience, your environment becomes juicier. It's just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, so it's...
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful. And I've said that before, where I had with $1 million clients, people are always like, how do you, and I was like, I don't do that. I said, it's not the system, it's your alignment. So knowing if people hear, when they think they want to get to success, they want to this, guess what? Work on your own being at peace, being at wholeness, being alignment, and not needing that, because that's why the vibration doesn't match. When you're completely whole, you attract a divine union. When you're completely in the vibration of I'm worthy and there's abundance everywhere, look at how I'm so supported. The universe has always got me. Everything is easy. Someone asked me the other day, how does it feel to have someone pay you $1 million? And I said, it felt like I didn't need it. I already felt like I'm $1 million. I was already the vibration of $1 million. That's the truth. And so then even it was like, was it a fit to work with the person? I was like, I need this thing. So it all comes down to, like you just mentioned, is us being in realizing this is such a beautiful journey that we get to be on. And if we can simply, drop stories of judgments or attachments or blame and just be with it and be in our freedom with it, be in liberation every single moment. So we're both here to activate those codes of freedom and those codes of liberation. Obviously, I'm dancing all over the world doing that for that purpose. And here you're in my old home base that I got to let go and do my global citizen journey, and I'm headed there next. So I think we might catch each other on, like, I fly in and you're going to LA, and
you're where I was born, and I'm where you're from. So it's beautiful.
I know. So good.
Beautiful. So I'd like to open up the space as well before we jump off. I think we should do this again sometime really soon. I think maybe we can be in person and just jump on and just chat to people. I think that would be really cool.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Before you come back, you're going to be running a couple of events in Australia, and there's a lot of my community that I would love to share this energy with. And as I've said before, like, your being in your presence for me has been so activating. I remember there was this moment when I sat down to catch up with you in Bali, and you had been speaking poetically for about 5 or 6 minutes, and my whole body was starting to activate, and I'm like lifting out of my seat, and I'm like, I don't really experience that very often. And you're like, I do that sometimes, I activate people. I'm like, well, thank you for that, because I'm sitting here going, am I getting upgraded? So if you are in Sydney or Melbourne, or if you want to jump on a flight to connect with I'm going to call you Sundari. I'm not going to call you Marci. Sundari, this is your new spiritual name. You're going to be. Do you want to share with them where you're going to be and what's unfolding? Yeah,
it's tomorrow in Sydney. So it's the Sound Dome event in the entertainment district, which we can share a link. So tomorrow in Sydney, at this beautiful sacred thing was built, and there's been people 6 to 9 months booked out to be in this space, and they literally rushed the build and asked me to be the very first event. So I get to be the first event there tomorrow to activate the codes. And so definitely, like, going to be there to activate codes of liberation, maybe do some DNA activation, definitely do a sound healing in the space. Like, we might have a famous singer who's a conscious singer. If you've ever heard of Afro Moses, he's seeing if he can drop in so he can, like, rock out the space. That's all happening tomorrow. And it's from 12 to 6. So you still have your Sunday morning, but then come activate codes with me. And again, Jared, my events have always been 5 to 30 to even 50 grand to be with me. A day with me was like a minimum of 5 grand. This is $108. I did this to serve the community and do activate codes. And then it's next weekend on the 23rd, I'm in Melbourne. So next Saturday in Melbourne, we'll be doing the same thing. So I can share a link, and I just appreciate you sharing. Obviously, I'm like, I felt called to do this service work here. And it was just what I was called to do. And so I'm just following that guidance, and whoever gets to come party with me will definitely get some upgrades. We'll get activated.
100%. I
So
wish I
it'll be
could be
fun.
there. We'll have to have our own little ceremony this side.
Yeah, I know.
I've just
I know. I'm so glad I get to see your face here now.
I've just seen Bashar said he's going. Bashar's in Sydney, so he'll be there.
Nice. I can't see any of the comments, but yay! I'm so excited to meet more amazing peeps. So it'd be awesome.
Beautiful. Well, it was so good to connect with you on here and to share this vibration together and to just share from our heart, you know. And I just want to take a second to just honor you, Marci, because you are a beautiful, bright light for so many people, myself included. And I just honor the fact that you, just by you standing in your power and being the embodiment of sovereignty and holding that juicy vibration, what you're doing and what you've done for me in a very, very powerful way has given me permission to do the same. And I just deeply, deeply, deeply honor you, because that's been one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. And I just love you from the bottom of my heart, sister. You're amazing.
Oh, I so fully appreciate and receive that. Thank you, my brother. And I love being your man.
Of course.
Because and you being one of my divine besties and allies, like I said, how it popped in, like you popped in my field. Next thing you know, you messaged me. I was like, oh yeah, I saw you. And then you popped in, and when we communicated, it was just like this activation of like remembrance, like, oh yeah, hey brother, we have done this before. Thank God you're back in my hologram as my soul family, and we get to play and dance again. So I honor you for being the light that I, you know, that vibration, my space that magnifies, because we're here to magnify each other. So you are such a beautiful, bright light. And every message you send me, I'm like, oh, we could just do these love messages all day back and forth. And I feel you too. So it's such a divine honor to have, you know, to be surrounded by such bright light. And I love you and Abby so much. So thank you so much.
Oh, we love you too, sister. Thank you so much.
This was fun.
All right.
Yeah,
amazing.
You.
Well, thank you guys for jumping on. There's some of you guys that stayed on the entire time. We truly appreciate you guys so much. And we'll have to set up a time to do another one. We'll give them a bit of warning next time. I think we'll give them a bit of like a day in advance warning.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
So good to have you guys
so
on. We love you all so much.
Work, so
and thank you, Marci.
Yeah.
And I'll chat to you soon, guys. Yeah.
All
right. Peace out. Bye.
Bye, guys.